In today's video, we're going to compare the capabilities of three AI coding assistants, Aider, Cursor, and Codium's new Windsurf IDE. We'll use each AI tool to build a RAG app from a one-shot prompt. In this video from a few months ago, we built a RAG app with Aider. In case you don't know what RAG is, I explain it at the beginning of that tutorial. In that tutorial, I used a sequence of prompts, incrementally building up the app features one by one. But can current AI coding assistants build such an app if we just give them one detailed prompt? Let's see how they do with that. Here are the prompts I used to have Aider build this in the old tutorial. I provided all these prompts to Claude and had it combine them all into one large prompt. I also added some more details, such as the exact tech stack I want to use for the app. And I specified some constraints. For example, I don't want the assistant to just dump all the code into a single source file. I want the solution to be simple, but still somewhat modular. I know from experience this kind of detail is really important. You do not want to leave these kinds of decisions up to any AI coding assistant. But why did I choose the RAG app as a test? Well, I think we all know it's pointless to try to get current AI tools to generate really complex apps in one shot. Besides, it would be a bad idea for other reasons to do this, even if these assistants could generate such apps. But don't let the size of the code base or simplicity of the UI for this app fool you. There are things about this app that makes it challenging for AI to get right, at least from a single prompt. So here's what we're going to do. We'll create empty projects for each coding assistant and place two documents in these project folders. One, the one large prompt I shared earlier, and two, a text version of the current online LangChain RAG reference documentation showing how various APIs work together to achieve RAG. Then we'll share the LangChain reference documentation with each coding assistant and have them execute our single-shot prompt to build the app. The point is to see how well these coding assistants perform and how much course correction we have to provide. All right, let's look at how we do this with Aider. So first of all, in VS Code, I've created an empty folder except for a .prompts directory that contains the prompt that I shared with you earlier and a refs directory that contains a text version of the LangChain RAG documentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring up Aider, and trust me, for other reasons I'll get into other videos, this level of complexity does not warrant Architect. I've tested it out fairly thoroughly, and I assure you it's a waste of tokens, it's a waste of money, and it takes a whole lot longer using Architect. Plus, I found with these types of applications, it actually causes a lot more problems than it solves. So anyway, so we're just going up with straight up Aider in edit mode with Sonnet. All right, and so the first thing we're going to do is it's going to need to have our prompt. So I'm going to read only .prompts / and read in our prompt, and it needs the LangChain docs. Because again, remember that the model, Sonnet, was trained only up to April, and there have been two major releases of LangChain, and we want to use the more recent versions. So I'm going to give it the examples, and now we're ready to go. And now what I'm just going to tell Aider is, hey, implement our RAG app. Okay, so it's using our prompt and it's going to use that to create our requirements.txt file for us. It's telling us we're going to need to create a .env. Now I went ahead and created this with my own API key in advance for convenience sake, speed things up. Utils.documentloader file to load our web URL we'll give it, a vector store to handle our vectors, our embeddings that will be created from the web page contents, a RAG chain to handle our AI Q&A aspects, and an app.py to handle the Streamlit user interface. Okay, so it explains to us what it did, what the implementation does, and then it asks for permission to start creating the files. We'll say yes on the requirements, yes on the document loader, vector store.py, yes on the RAG chain and the app.py. So let's take a quick look. We can see our requirements.txt file, our app.py, which is setting up our Streamlit app, and then we have utils that are called by the main app.py file. Okay, and we're getting the squigglies basically because we haven't set up our virtual environment and installed our dependencies from our requirements.txt file. So what we're going to do now, Aider offers to do all that for us. I don't like to actually do these commands from Aider, so I'm going to say no. I almost said yes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into another terminal, and I'm going to execute these myself. So we'll create a virtual environment and activate it. Okay, now we'll install our requirements. All right, and this might take a few seconds or a minute. Okay, so we're good with the requirements. They're all installed. Next thing is it wants us to make a database directory for Chroma to store the embeddings. All right, so made the database, the DB directory. And now time to test out first run of our Streamlit app. Okay, and here we go. Let's see what we get. All right, so far, not too bad. So now we need to test it out. So I'm going to use this blog post from the continue.dev coding assistant team just to check it out. So we'll have it actually load that blog. Okay, so we got an error already. So the nice thing about Aider is I'm on a Mac, so I can Command, Control, Shift 4, and I can actually just paste this into Aider, back to Aider, /paste to paste the image in, and I'll just say fix. And this warning up here doesn't matter. It actually just downscaled it. So we'll say fix that. All right, so it goes back to the document loader. It figures out what the problem is. And it changes a couple of files, apply some edits. Again, I don't want it to run the Streamlit app. I'm going to say no. And I'm going to go back over and I'm going to relaunch the Streamlit app in another terminal. I'm going to cheat. Go back over to our old window, paste that in, say load the content. Okay, we got another one. So I'm going to do the same thing, Command, Control, Shift, 4, and I'm going to paste this in. Back to Aider, /paste. I'm just going to say fix. It knows what I mean. So it sees that the persist attribute from the image is an issue. So it goes back through, it finds the issue, attempts to fix it, and then it made a change that requires removing the database file. So I'm just going to say, yeah, sure. Go ahead and remove that. All right, let me relaunch the app and see where we are. Killing the app, and I'll restart it again. And again, I'm just bringing up a new tab each time, which I'll just copy from the old instance, paste in, and load the content. All right, well, let's see, one more time. Let's paste this in to Aider. And I'll say fix. All right, we need to modify the app.py in the vector store to properly handle collection resets. Okay, resetting the that's because it already created the collection last time and it didn't handle restarting the app with the database already in place. All right, so it wants to remove the database again. Remove the database it created. Now, let's see. I'll restart the app. And again. This is the new user interface, and let's load the content now. All right, content loaded and stored successfully. All right, we got past that. Now, what I want to do is I want to ask a question. So now what's going to happen is the app should go to the vector database, retrieve the most relevant documents from this blog post, and use that and only that to answer my question. Briefly summarize how I can fine-tune StarCoder. So it talks about fine-tuning StarCoder in this particular article. So I want to summarize that for me. All right, cool. And I know the article well enough to know that this is correct, in fact. All right, so we're good there. Now, just real quick, let's take a look at how Aider broke down our application. So he created one main app.py file that handles most of the Streamlit or handles all of the Streamlit UI, that then delegates to a document loader that uses LangChain components to parse our web, our URL, and load those documents. And then there is a vector store that handles storing those, converting those embeddings and storing them into a Chroma database locally. And then there's a RAG chain that handles all of the interaction with the large language model to answer our question. All right, so that's Aider. We had a few issues. Aider was able to work through them. In my experience, sometimes it's one or two errors like this on this level of complexity. Sometimes it might be one or two more, but generally it's not hours of work with Aider. Okay, let's try Cursor Composer. So to be clear, we're using the same exact approach, the same prompts, the same knowledge for three different coding assistants: Aider, Cursor, using Cursor's Composer, and the new Windsurf AI coding assistant. So again, I have Cursor open and I have our prompt here for convenience to copy and paste it in. I have LangChain documentation in text form on how to build RAG applications with the newer versions of LangChain. I have Cursor Composer open and I'm going to load in the LangChain docs, the examples for LangChain and RAG. And again, I'm going to say, hey, only use the contents of this file for reference. It contains information on using LangChain to create RAG apps. Refer to this during our session as necessary. So it should, Cursor, should just load this in. So it's saying, yeah, I understand it, I read it. Okay, now I'm ready to go. So I'm going to take our prompt, same one we've been using. I'm going to copy the entirety of this into Composer, paste, enter. And I'm just going to say, now it has our prompt, it has the examples of LangChain RAG. I'm going to say implement our RAG app, which is pretty much what I have been saying with our other AI coding assistants, Aider so far. So it's laying out our structure. We did say we wanted a modular application, not just putting it all into one main.py file. So it's running through this requirements.txt. I've already created a .env file with our OpenAI API key just for convenience in advance. So it's going to create a RAG app source directory with an app, a loader, a database, RAG chain, etc. So here's I'm just going to go ahead and say accept for our requirements.txt file while it's generating the rest. And so now it should have created our app.py, database.py, loaders.py. Okay, cool. So accept all on the code changes. Now it's saying, hey, you want to create a virtual environment? That's per our instructions. I'm going to just say, yeah, I'm just going to copy this into the terminal. Execute that. So now we have a new Python virtual environment. I'm going to copy its pip install requirements command to install our requirements from our txt file. All right, this is going to take a minute or two. All right, so all of our requirements should be installed. And now we have our main entry point, app.py, and it's saying run your app by executing this command, Streamlit run source.app. I'm going to clear the terminal real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and run that command. All right, let's see where we are. Okay. All right, so this is looking pretty good so far. So load web page, I'm going to provide our sample web page, which is this blog post from the continue.dev team. I'm going to say load that into our store, so it should create, so we've got a issue with beautiful soup. So I'm going to Command Control Shift 4, so just like you can with Aider, you can take a screenshot. I'm going to copy this to the clipboard. I'm going to paste this in just to Command V. I'm going to say, hey, Cursor, let's fix this. Just say fix. All right, notice the error is related to Beautiful Soup's features parameter. Let's fix loader.py. All right, it's explaining the changes it wants to make. I'm just going to say accept all, because this isn't really a tutorial, it's more a test to give you a feel for how Cursor, Aider, and Windsurf compare on these types of applications. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kill the app, and I'm just going to start it up again by running streamlit run source app.py. All right, so let's try this blog post again. So we'll see if it can parse and load the web page. Error loading, failed to load, tree builder. No. All right, again, Command, Control, Shift, F4. It's on the clipboard. I'm going to say, paste it into Cursor Compose, and I'm going to say another error. Probably don't need to say it, just fix usually is good enough. I'm just going to go ahead and kill the app for now. All right, we need to modify a web base loader configuration further. Web base loader is a lane chain component. So it wants to change this line from parser to features to use the LXML component. All right, and let's see if it added LXML component to our requirements.txt, which means we're going to have to reinstall. I'm just going to say go ahead and accept all. All right, and down in the terminal, it says pip install, but it's added to requirements.txt, so all I need to really do is run pip install -r requirements.txt again. And now we should be using the LXML component and have it in our environment. I'm going to clear and rerun our Streamlit app. All right, so this is our new version of Streamlit app. Copy and paste our blog post again and load it. Error failing to load. Still have a problem here. All right. Fix. Telling Cursor Composer to fix that. Trying a different approach to the web loader. Removing some KW-args, simplify the loader initialization. Let's see, so it's making some updates to the loader. I'm going to say accept all. All right, let's start the app up one more time. All right, blog post URL, paste it in here. Let's see if it can load it this time. It still cannot load it. API key. Oh, it's complaining about our OpenAI. I do have my OpenAI. Oh, it overrode my API key. That might have been my bad. So I'm going to pause here and update it with the actual key. Okay, part of that, the API key issue could have been mine, because what happened, I think, is I had pre-prepared my .env file with my actual key. I'm not going to open that up, so I don't have to edit the video and block it out. But I'm going to, now that I've updated it again with my real key, I'm going to rerun the app. All right, let's try this again. So the first issues were cursor, but that last couple, those last two issues were mine. Okay, content loaded and stored successfully. Now I want to ask a question to ensure that it actually can do Q&A against this blog post. So there's a section of the blog post that talks about fine-tuning the StarCoder 2 model that Continue is using. I'm going to say, hey, briefly summarize how I can fine-tune StarCoder with my own development data when using Continue Coding Assistant. And okay, that is good. Okay, so the first couple of issues with Cursor was Cursor. The last couple of issues, once you saw the OpenAI API key complaint, that was my problem. I didn't realize that Cursor had overwritten the .env file with a dummy key. All right, so that's Cursor. We have our RAG app up and running. You can learn a lot more about these concepts, AI tools and techniques on our Coding the Future School community. I've provided a link in the description below. We share information, answer your questions, exchange ideas, and offer more in-depth learning material on the topics and tools you see in the tutorials on this YouTube channel. Plus, we have regular group video calls where you can ask questions, get help, and share your own ideas with people from all over the world. So come join us. Okay, so last up is the new kid on the block, Codium's Windsurf AI Coding Assistant. What we're going to do is we're going to use Cascade to do the same thing using the same prompt and the same lane chain RAG documentation we used for Aider and Cursor. So over here in Cascade, I'm going to do what we did before. I'm going to say, hey, add this file, which is our lane chain docs text. That's information on lane chain. And again, I'm going to tell it, hey, only use the contents of this file for reference and contains information on using lane chain to create RAG apps. All right, so it's going to read and analyze that, but it's only going to store it in memory for now. Okay, I see this is a comprehensive guide on building RAG apps with lane chain. All right, so like we did with Aider and Cursor Composer, I'm going to paste in this prompt that we have exactly as it is, telling it what kind of RAG app we want to build in all of our constraints. Send. So now Cascade is analyzing our requirements, looking at our RAG lane chain documentation, and devising a plan. It says, okay, I'm going to create a main application. I create a requirements.txt file. Let's see what's putting in. So it looks like it's honoring our requirements. I'm going to go ahead and say accept all changes of that while it's thinking. It's going to create a loader.py file, a database.py file. So it's separating our concerns the way that we wanted, and similar to the way that Aider and Cursor has done it as well. One for loading our web page, one for handling our Chroma database, one for handling our chain, basically our Q&A with the GPT-4 LLM, and one for running, probably for one running our Streamlit app that's going to actually connect all these together. Notice too, I'm in write mode. So there's a chat mode and a write mode for Cascade. We have to be in write mode for this because it needs to create files. All right, so now it's reviewing it all. I've created a complete modular RAG app following the requirements, and it summarizes them in the way that Aider does and the way that Cursor does as well. Clean modular code. So it's doing a little bit more up front than what we normally say. Okay, so it says accept all. Again, we're not here to review everything. We want a general feel for, whether it did what we asked, modularized it, followed our requirements, etc. It looks like it did, just like the other assistants have. I'm going to copy the commands. In our prompt, we've said, hey, we always create a Python virtual environment to isolate our dependencies. As the other coding assistants have done, it honored that. Now we have a virtual environment, and we're going to, and it has this insert into terminal. So it will directly insert this pip install requirements command into our terminal. We run that. This will take a minute or two. In the meantime, it tells us we need to create a .env file with our OpenAI API key. Now, just for convenience, I know that we have to do that, so I've gone ahead and create one with my OpenAI API key. And it says, hey, you're ready to run your Streamlit app. Just insert this into the terminal, Streamlit run app.py. All right, let's see where we are with it. All right, so this is the web page. This was the one shot it did it. So again, what we want to do is we want to parse this blog post, store that, vectorize it. Okay, so as before. Now, unfortunately, at this time with Cascade, there's no ability to do what we could do with Aider or Cursor, that is take a screenshot and paste that in. But what we can do, and it's good enough for this case, we'll just actually say, copy the text. And we'll say error in UI, and I'm just going to paste the contents. I see there's an issue in the persist. Similar to the other coding assistants, it injected a persist method that isn't any longer available in ChromaDB, so it's going to fix the database.py file to remove that. And they'll ask us if we accept the changes. Oh, okay, so it's showing us the changes. Let's go ahead and accept all the changes. All right, I've updated the database py to remove the explicit persist. Now it's going to edit the loader.py to make a small improvement to the loader to better handle web content. So it detected another issue, unrelated apparently, but another issue that it wants to fix while it was looking at the code. Remove the explicit persist, so it tells us what it did. We're going to say, go ahead, accept all changes, including the ones to the loader. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the Streamlit app again. I'm going to copy and paste the blog post again and try to load the content. Error loading. All right, so again, I'm going to copy this. Can't paste the image the way that we can with other coding assistants. I'm going to say error. If I can spell error. And see what Cascade does with this. It says, I see the features parameters being passed both through KW args and through Beautiful Soup's default args. Let's fix the loader. All right, so it wants to make some changes to the loader, the web-based loader, to change some of the arguments the way they're called. So I'm going to say accept all. Let's try starting the app again. All right, once again, I'm going to have it try to parse the web page and load it. All right, so we're good. At least we're good with storing it and vectorizing it. So now what we want to do is we want to ask it a question, as we've done with the other two versions of our app. So briefly summarize how we can fine tune StarCoder with continue. Thinking about it. All right, looking good. So what did we learn? Well, given a not quite trivial app to build and a detailed prompt that provides not just the requirements, but the detailed tech stack and new knowledge to supplement the backend LLM's training data, all these tools did quite well. Notice that all this information would also be required by any human software developer creating this app. They all got a couple of very minor things wrong, mostly due to recent updates to the ChromaDB APIs. But with a quick hint, such as an app screenshot, they all corrected the bugs on their own and very easily. Now I'm not going to draw any conclusions about which coding assistant is best. No one tool stood out clearly for this particular exercise, in my opinion. And best is nothing more than a matter of personal preference. What's most important to you and the way you want to work? But it is clear to me that AI coding assistants are improving at a rapid pace. Now, I hope this video inspired you to experiment with these ideas in AI tools and to really dive into learning the fundamentals of applying AI to your software development work. There are several other videos on this channel that show you how to build apps using AI. So if you found the topics in this video interesting, you'll likely enjoy those as well. And again, we'd love to meet you in our school community. If you'd like to see more videos on this or similar topics, please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give a like and subscribe. I'm Tim Kitchens, coding the future with you, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos.